Welcome to the Cult of Domesticity podcast, a podcast about history, true crime, and whatever life brings us. I'm Courtney, and every week I am joined by another fascinating person. Let's see what we're going to talk about this week. Welcome back, devotees. This week I'm with Skye from...
Hello.
I think you are one of the few people who have a longer podcast name than me.
It's very long, and everyone's like, oh, well, why'd you pick that? And it's basically just because I'm not creative, and I wanted it to be very clear what the podcast was about, so
the opposite of mine.
Pretty much.
The exact opposite of my name, yeah. So it's Histories, Mysteries, and Conspiracies, right?
Yes.
Myself. Just trying to remember it all week. I'm like, I know this. But yes, and you're going to tell us a story this week.
Mm-hmm. Talking about Jennifer Pan. Do you know the story?
I love this story. I also have clearly a lot of issues because I love it.
It's so wild. Like, I remember the first time I heard it, I was just like, I heard about My Favorite Murder, and I was like, what? And it just kept getting crazier and crazier and crazier. And
it's like the Big Bang Theory where they have like 4D chess or something, and you're just like, What is happening? Because that's legitimately the story, is 4D chess.
Yeah, for real.
And you're just sitting there like, oh my gosh. I think I remember first hearing it on Dark Poutine. So.
Okay.
But it was Vancouver, right, where she was?
I don't know if that's where she was. It was Canada. I know she lived in Toronto, or was by Toronto at one point in time.
Probably Toronto. So the opposite side of the country.
She was close enough, when she was in Toronto, she was close enough to go back to, where her parents lived.
So, yeah.
Nearish Toronto.
Yeah, so close to me then, because Ohio, kind of north, across the lake.
Oh, yeah, you're in Ohio, and I'm in Michigan.
Woo. I'm not a football fan. I should mention that.
I know. I'm not either.
My brother did go to Ohio State, so I do know all the traditions. For non-Midwestern people, Ohio and Michigan hate each other. Basically because of football.
Basically.
Ohio State Buckeyes and University of Michigan.
U of M. Yeah,
Wolverines. Every year. It's the big game. And then they stopped burning things now, so...
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I didn't go to U of M. I didn't go to state, so I am not involved with that rivalry, and I'm not involved in the Ohio rivalry. So.
Oh, I'm not either. I went to Miami, and we don't do sports except for hockey, which doesn't make sense. Because it's around cornfields, and you're just like, hockey! That's what we're going with.
Okay.
Yeah, so tell us about Jennifer Pan, and let's start this game of 4D chess.
So I'm going to start, in the middle, and then we'll go back to the beginning, because I feel like the story's better told this way. So on November 8th, 2010, 25-year-old Jennifer Pan was on the phone in her room, watching some TV, casual night, and her mom Bic Ha, was 53 years old at the time, downstairs watching TV. And then her dad was upstairs taking a nap, maybe going to bed for the night. And at this time, he was 57 and his name is Han. So it's Bic and Han. And her brother was away at college. Suddenly, 3 men burst into their house, each armed with a gun. They harassed the parents. They took her dad, brought him downstairs. They took Jennifer upstairs, tied her to the banister with a shoestring, and they took the parents and brought them into the basement. Now, during this time, Bic desperately pleaded for her daughter's life to be spared, and both Bic and Han were shot multiple times. Once the men had fled, Jennifer called the police in hysterics. She said, "Help me, please, I need help." She explained that she'd managed to free herself after the gunmen had tied her hands, and her blood-soaked father crawled from the basement, surviving the gunshot, and first thing he sees is his dead wife, and he's just screaming, and on the 911 call you can hear her dad screaming, and it's really, really eerie. And her dad ended up getting rushed to the hospital, and he had been put in a medically induced coma, so the police couldn't really talk to him. When Jennifer was brought in for questioning, they asked her to reenact how she was able to call 911 if she was tied up, because when they got to the house she was still tied up, so they were really confused about that. And there were some holes in her stories, things like with that, and it just didn't make a lot of sense. So they began to follow her, including to her mother's funeral, where she didn't cry, and her emotions were described by the police as not genuine. But I do like to comment on that because some people handle grief and trauma very differently. So could have just been like some people I know, even if they get bad news, they'll laugh at it. Like they'll hear something horribly and tragic. So just wanted to.
I think it's just amazing that her father survived, because I forget how he had like multiple gunshot wounds, and they must have just not hit the right areas. But you're like, oh my god, you climbed up.
I think it like barely hit his carotid. Like it went right next to it. Like it was like a millimeter over. He would have died.
And didn't her like neighbors hear him because he was like screaming so loud?
Yeah, they're the ones who called, or they also called the police. So when they when the police re-listened to Jennifer's 911 call, they had wondered, they could hear Hans screaming, but his first thing was to go outside and yell. So he didn't go and try to check in on Jennifer and see how she was doing. So they were like, that's kind of weird. But once Han came out of his coma, then the police kind of figured out what was going on. So now let's go back to the beginning. So Jennifer Pan was born June 17, 1986. She is a Vietnamese-Canadian woman of Chinese descent, and both of her parents came to Canada from Vietnam. Her parents worked at Magna International, which is an auto parts manufacturer in Ontario. And they worked very hard to make sure that their kids had opportunities and an upbringing that they wanted for themselves, but they had to miss out on. But part of that was that they had very high expectations for their kids. Jennifer began piano.
Those Asian parents are very, very intense, from what I've heard.
Yeah, very want a lot of success for their kids and will work really hard to make sure they have it. Now, Jennifer had piano lessons starting at age 4, and then she also had figure skating training most of the week. So she had hopes of becoming an Olympian, but she tore a ligament in her knee, so she wasn't able to continue it super long. But while she was in figure skating, she would like go to school, and then she would go to figure skating until like 10 p.m. And then she would get home and have to do her homework.
How do you, like, that's always the crazy thing when you think about that. Like, how do you function? This is why when you see those high, like, quality Olympians and, like, athletes, they're all homeschooled because you don't have time for school and BS. Like, it's like you're doing your school in between practicing and, like, at your breaks. And you're there all day, and it's just insane.
It is crazy. Like, I can't even think about that. Like, I did figure skating when I was in elementary school, but it was like, in the summer, I would go a lot because it was something to do, and at the time, I lived in New Mexico, and it was hot. So, it would just be nice to go and ice skate and indoors and everything like that. So, I would go probably, like, every other day of the week, but during the school year, no, I'd go, like, once a week.
Which is more reasonable.
I can't even imagine doing that much.
I swam, and I mean, when I was in high school, we'd go, it was 5 days a week after school, and then there were Saturday practices plus meets, and I mean, there was some time between practice and school, or school and practice, and then you'd get home at like 9:30 to 10, and then you'd finish whatever you didn't do, and then you eat second dinner, and then you go to sleep, but that's just swimming, so.
Yeah, swimming, I was gonna say, swimming is so tiring. So tiring too, so that's insane.
I'm more tired now than I was then, because it gives you, like, you get, like, once you get that endurance, you just have the energy, and now I don't do it. I'm just like, oh man, I tried to go swim the other day, and I was just like, so out of shape, can't do anything.
I'm not a strong swimmer, so I don't swim a lot, which is like, probably should swim more because I'm not a strong swimmer, but as a result, I just don't like swimming, so I don't swim that much.
I don't anymore. Okay,
so in elementary school, Jennifer got great grades and won trophies for her accomplishments. And she began to, like, in middle school, she began to get really stressed out because she wasn't doing as well as her parents would hope. Like, when she hit middle school, she wasn't getting as good of grades. No longer straight A student. And she began engaging in self-harm to cope with the stress that she was experiencing. And when she graduated in grade 8, she and her family expected her to be the valedictorian and receive a bunch of awards. She received no awards and was not valedictorian. So this just added to the stress that she was experiencing. Now, her high school friend, Karen K. Ho, she described Han as the classic tiger dad, and Bick was his reluctant accomplice. So when Jennifer failed to win first place at skating competitions, she tried to hide her devastation from her parents because she didn't want them to be more disappointed in her. And her mother, Bick, would notice something was amiss and that she was upset and would comfort her daughter at night. when Han was asleep, she would tell Jennifer, all we want from you is just your best. Just do what you can.
It's just interesting because normally it's the tiger mom, not the tiger dad. So it's like interesting to see the change dynamics.
Yeah. I think it's really sad too because it's like her mom obviously didn't want, she wanted her to succeed, but she didn't want her to be unhappy while doing it. And so it just makes the whole thing really sad.
Oh, yeah. It's like the pressure from one parent putting on another parent. She's just like, I'm trying.
During the school year, they would pick up Jennifer when classes ended each day and monitored her extracurricular activities very, very carefully. So they were very strict. And she swam and played the flute in high school band. They never permitted her to date boys while she attended high school. And she wasn't allowed to attend high school dances or proms because they didn't want her to be distracted. If she had a sleepover, they would drop her off very late and pick her up very early. She was not permitted to attend any parties, especially when her parents thought she was at university, they were like, you can't attend any parties there either. Just kept very close eye on all of her actions. And at the age of 22, she had never gone to a club, been drunk, visited a friend's cottage, or gone on vacation without her family.
That's so weird. It's you're not living. How do you can't be a fully functioning person.
Right. It's so hard too, because it's sometimes that's what you look forward to. It's the school year. It's everything is hard and the classes are hard, but at least on Friday I get to go to this prom or whatever. And that's so sad too, to be surrounded by all the promposals and everybody's so excited for all these things, and her knowing that she can't go. Yeah,
it's just even more isolating. They just have built her in this little it's not even a room. It's just a circle around her where they're it's this glass circle and she's looking out at them. It's a 90s music video, basically.
And you think about the people at the school probably figured out really quickly that she can't, her parents don't let her hang out and they're really strict, so they're going to stop inviting her to stuff.
Yeah, because they don't want her to feel awkward.
Yeah, so it's she's just not going to get invited, and then it's a cycle.
Her poor friends, because they probably do want to invite her. They're like, oh, we like you, we want you to come, but then or the disappointment or having her have to sneak out or something.
Yeah, it's just so sad. So in high school, she received average grades, except in music. She did really well there. She often forged report cards to depict straight A's, even though she was receiving, it was a B average.
I'm always impressed when kids have, forged their report cards. I'm my parents would have found out and it would not have gone well.
My parents didn't really check my grades. They weren't keeping tabs on it. If I got good grades, I would show them. So if I wasn't showing them it, they knew they weren't good. I mean, I don't know, hearing about her dad, it makes you wonder, if he had, how much control he had over her mom. Was he controlling her, too? And,
I believe...
wouldn't let her do anything?
It's a patriarchal society, so it probably was. Women have the soft power, the men have the hard power, but in this case, he has both powers.
Yeah, and Vic is just sitting there, doing her best.
Trying to just keep everyone happy.
Apparently. In high school, Jennifer received early admission into Ryerson University, but her parents wanted her to go to University of Toronto, so she told them that her plan was to transfer there eventually, and her plan was to study pharmacology, which actually her dad chose that career path for her. Now, she failed calculus and her senior year and lost early admission, and as a result, she never graduated high school either.
Oh my god. Also, pharmacology, not easy. It's if you're struggling and someone chooses that, you're just okay. Well, good thing you already don't have a life. You're just gonna get stressed. Stressed.
And it makes me interested in why he chose that for her, as opposed to just become a doctor.
Well, I guess it's a specialized doctor. It's a fancy MD.
I guess. So she lied to her parents and just started pretending she was going to university. And she would just go to, and it was close enough that she could drive, so she would just go to cafes and would teach piano and work as a bartender.
Can I just say, this sounds like a movie? This whole setup is right? I'm totally going to this place, not going to this place.
Yeah, it's this part kind of sounds more innocent, and it sounds like something that could be almost like a Hallmark movie, but at the end of the parents make up and everything's happy. And
she gets married, because that's how all Hallmark movies end.
And she gets married to the man she loves, who her parents don't approve of.
Mm-hmm. And they kiss at 56. I think that's always when they kiss. They kiss 4 minutes before the end of the movie. Every time. every time. I have a family friend. We've watched a lot of Hallmark movies. And then I just get this text like, we figured out the formula.
We figured it out.
Hallmark movies. Watch it. They do.
I'll have to watch it. I'll just be watching the clock, like timing, waiting for the kiss.
Yeah, it's like really like within the last 5 minutes, the kiss happens, but they don't kiss anywhere else in that entire movie. And you're just like, this is not how relationships work.
This is not, no.
And
I mean, I guess any Hallmark movie, though, it's not how relationships work, so.
Yes, Jennifer.
So she told her parents that she was getting all these scholarships, so they didn't have to pay for anything. And then she kept up this ruse for 2 years, and then she claimed that she was accepted into the University of Toronto's pharmacology program, so she was good to transfer there. And she received scholarships there, too.
Weird.
So guess what? They don't need to pay for anything. Mm-hmm. So she went to the extent of purchasing secondhand textbooks and watching videos and just filling notebooks with notes related to pharmacology so that she could show her parents and basically just pretend to know her stuff.
I'm kind of impressed, though, because you can't get regular pharmacology students to really want to do that.
Right?
And she's...
Like, I want to know what she was thinking during this time, because this isn't a long game. Like, she's obviously not going to graduate. She doesn't even have a high school degree or diploma. And what are her parents going to think when she can't get a job in pharmacology?
Yeah, they're like, where's your job? See, really, the smart plan would be get your GED during this time and then slowly work and get a degree in something you want and just trick them.
Yeah.
And then be like, haha, I really have this degree.
I really loved art the whole time.
And then jazz hands and glitter. I think that's just Bo Burnham pulling glitter out of his pocket.
That's what I was thinking.
Out of his pocket. He's like, haha.
I can't even think of that bit, but yeah, I was just thinking about that too.
Just has glitter in his pockets, and my thought is, your poor laundry is going to be full of glitter for years. It's just going to be in the washing machine. Every so often, just some glitter.
I know, all of his tour clothes that have glitter on them.
Yeah. Oh my god. And then it's once it gets in the machine, you're screwed. You're finding glitter for days.
There's no going back from that. So Jennifer asked her parents, because she was close enough to commute, but she said she wanted to stay with her friend Topaz, and then it was easier to commute, and then she had more time to study and stuff like that. So she wanted to stay there just a few days during the week. So they said yes, and she was actually staying with her boyfriend, Daniel Chi Kwang Wang. And Daniel was actually a high school sweetheart, but her parents didn't know anything about him because, no boys allowed. So her and Daniel were actually friends in band, and their relationship was platonic until they went on a band trip to Europe in 2003. And after a performance in a concert hall filled with smokers, Jennifer had an asthma attack. She started freaking out, and Daniel led her outside and calmed her down and helped her with breathing. She said that he pretty much saved my life, and it meant everything. And then they started dating shortly after that.
Aw, band kids.
Yeah, it was a little cute. So, now, it's time for her to graduate college. Yeah. So, she creates a false transcript and diploma and told her parents that it was a large class, so they were only giving students one ticket to graduation, and she didn't want her parents to have to choose. So she just spared them by giving her ticket to her friend.
Oh, that's nice.
It's really nice, except for that's like not even a good line.
No, that's not how college works.
She should have been like, I had an interview on the day of graduation or something, so I couldn't go.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that would have been more acceptable to them.
Yeah, or I just don't like the speaker, I don't want to go.
Yeah, just, like, I feel like there's a million better reasons that are more plausible.
Oh, yeah.
So, while she was in school, she told her parents that she'd started working as a volunteer at Toronto's prestigious hospital for sick children, known as Sick Kids. And I don't, that's it. It's Sick Kids, one word.
It's unfortunate. Why? I get you're gonna know where you're going, but still.
Also, Toronto, why are you naming your hospital for sick children Hospital for Sick Children?
Yeah. Questions. So many questions.
I know. That's not a good name.
It reminds me of, like, when they would be like, this is the school for deaf kids, or, like, this is this, and you're just like...
It's like the Derek Zoolander Center for Children Who Can't Read good and want to learn to do other things good, too.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah, except for it's not a school for ants. It needs to be at least, like, 10 times bigger than this.
Okay, so Han and Vic became suspicious because she didn't have a uniform or an ID badge or anything like that. Which, I mean, Jennifer, I feel like she could have been clever enough to create a badge. It's not hard.
Go to Kinko's.
Whatever, and just buy a polo. Buy, like, a blue polo and call that your uniform.
Be like, I just gotta have khakis and, like, a blue polo, and you're good.
Exactly. Like, that would have been fine.
And then go to Kinko's, make your ID, get out, like, one of those fun things that has a little elastic so you can be like...
I can't think of what they're called. I literally wear one at work, and I can't think of what they're called.
Yeah.
But yeah, those. Pole reel? Or pole reel?
Maybe. I don't know.
So,
or a lanyard. Put it on lanyard. Something.
Yeah, lanyard. There you go. So they offered to drive her to work because they were suspicious, and once they dropped her off, Han told Vic to follow her. So Jennifer really quickly realized that her mom was following her. So she ran into the ER and hid in the waiting area for a few hours until they left.
They waited a few hours?
That's what I was thinking too. Well, her parents, I'm not surprised that they probably spent, because if her mom was like, oh, I lost her, Han would be like, no, you didn't. Go back and find her. Like, ask around, do something. So
also, how are they working at this time? That's my question.
Right?
I don't know. This much time to wait hours after you dropped your daughter off at work?
Mm-hmm. All in the name of success. So, early the next morning, they called Topaz, and it was like, who groggily told the truth. And that she said, just came clean and said Jennifer wasn't there. Jennifer hadn't been staying with her. I don't know what you're talking about. Blah, blah, blah. She was not a loyal friend.
I think basically. She didn't know about it.
I don't think she knew about it either. So I feel like that was also a bad move on Jennifer's part.
If you're gonna lie, you have to include the friends in that are in the lie.
If you're gonna lie to everybody all the time. People who aren't in on the lie, you just gotta cover your bases. I'm sure if
she would have told Topaz, hey, just tell my parents I'm staying with you, she would have done it.
She would have been like, oh, okay. If she was a good friend.
Yeah, she's probably like, Mama, parents are crazy. Like, just tell them I'm staying with you because I'm working or something.
Yeah. So they figured it out. Jennifer came home. Han confronted her. And she confessed that she didn't volunteer at Sick Kids, had never been in U of T's pharmacology program, and had indeed been staying at her boyfriend's. Though she didn't tell him, she did not tell them that she never graduated high school, and that her time at Ryerson was also complete fiction. But her mom was just devastated, and her dad was pissed. Han told Jennifer to get out and never come back, but Vic convinced him to let their daughter stay. They took away her cell phone and laptop for 2 weeks, after which she was only permitted to use them in her parents' presence and had to endure surprise checks of her messages. They forbade her from seeing Daniel. They ordered her to quit all of her jobs except for teaching piano, and then they began tracking the odometer on her car. So at this point in time, she's 24.
She's a grown-ass adult.
Yes. Maybe she's 23. But either way, she's an adult. And I think they even gave her the option that they're like, you can either stay or you can leave, and then we'll never talk to you again.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. That's crazy, because your only two options are to stay in this horrible abusive situation or to leave and never see your family again. And you're just like, I mean, it's hard to say what you would pick.
Mm-hmm. So, and it's like, she didn't, I mean, it's unclear if she had other friends like that she could have stayed with during that time, and she could have stayed with Daniel, but, I don't really know why she chose the way she did. Maybe, it was her parents and people who raised her, and she had gone through all these elaborate lies to make them happy. So, obviously she did care what they think.
Maybe it's like the demon versus the unknown, where she knows at least what's going to happen if she stays there, and she's comfortable at this point. It's her normal. So why risk going out there? Yeah,
and I don't know what her plan was, why she chose that.
Yeah.
Could also been heat of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'll stay, whatever. So she was still madly in love with Daniel, and she was super lonely because she was stuck there. And for 2 weeks, she was housebound with her mother by her side the whole time. So, like you said before, are they working? I don't know. So Vic told Jennifer where her dad had hidden the phone so she could periodically check her messages. And in February of 2009, she wrote on her Facebook page, "Living in my house is like living under house arrest." She also posted a note, "No one person knows everything about me, and no two people put together knows everything about me. I like being a mystery." So during the spring and summer, she snuck calls with Daniel on her cell phone at night, whispering in the dark. Eventually, she was allowed some freedom. She enrolled in a calculus course to finish her high school career, and she would visit Daniel in between piano lessons. So one night, she snuck out of the house, and her mom caught her sneaking out of the house. and they ordered Jennifer to come back home immediately, and they demanded that she apply to college and could still be a pharmacy lab tech or nurse, and told her that she had to cut off all contact with Daniel.
What my thing is, what issues do they have with Daniel? Because
I think it just didn't help that they didn't like guys to begin with, and then they told her originally she couldn't date until after college. So she gets involved with this guy. They figure out they've been dating since high school, and she doesn't graduate high school, and so as a result never goes to college, goes with these lies. So to them, they probably see it as once Daniel came into her life, she started just not, like, messing up and lying and just being a terrible person.
Which doesn't seem the case. Daniel probably would have...
No. I mean, he wasn't a great guy. He had his own track record, got kicked out of schools. He was a drug dealer, so...
He's not the best, but he also...
He's not the worst.
Yeah, he's not being horrible to her.
Yeah.
So you have to, like, think the other side of that, too. You're like, well, he's not horrible, but he's not the best.
He's not great, either. So, shortly after this, Daniel broke up with Jennifer, and he began seeing a girl named Christine. Jennifer was obviously super upset about this, so she created the story that a man had knocked on her door and flashed what looked like a police badge. When she opened the door, a group of men rushed in, overpowered her, and gang raped her in the foyer. A few days later, she said she received a bullet in an envelope in her mailbox, and she claimed that both of these were from Christine, were warnings from Christine to stay away from Daniel. And Daniel believed this, broke up with Christine, got back together with Jennifer.
That's, I mean, very elaborate. And very intense to do. And I don't think most girls immediately go to having your boyfriend's ex gang raped.
Right? Like that. And I mean, I feel like because Daniel knew about all of her lies with school, why would he believe that right away, too?
Yeah, it's a little bit suspicious.
Mm-hmm. So, in spring of 2010, Jennifer reconnected with Andrew Montmayor, who was a friend from elementary school. So, Jennifer claims that he had boasted about robbing people at knife point in a park near his home. He denied this, but she told him about her relationship with her dad, and Montmayor confessed that he also considered killing his own father. He introduced Jennifer to his roommate, Ricardo Duncan, and together they hatched a plan for Duncan to murder her father in the parking lot at his work. Jennifer gave him $1,500 up front, and they agreed to arrange a time and date later. Duncan stopped responding to calls, and Jennifer thought she'd been ripped off. But Duncan says that she'd called him in early July, hysterical, requesting that he come and kill her parents. He felt offended and said no, and she gave him $200 one time, which he actually did return.
I don't trust her story always, because she's a bit of a compulsive liar, and who brags about stabbing people in the park? Like... You're just sitting there like, that's just how you get caught, sir. Have you not watched Dateline? I
was just gonna say, I mean, that's how people get caught, is they brag or they start doing things like, I'm so sneaky, here's a letter. I think about BTK all the time, and his like, so can you track... What was it? Was it a floppy disk? Can you track a floppy disk? And then...
Children.
No.
If you don't know what a floppy disk is, look at the little save symbol on Microsoft Word.
That's a floppy disk.
It's a precursor to a flash drive, and it sucks. You need about 30 of them for anything of substance.
I think the first and last time I interacted with a floppy disk wasn't even my interaction. It was this kid in my class in 5th grade brought his paper that he had to turn in on a floppy disk, and that was it. And I was like... And I, like, knew what they were, because my parents had them. My dad is, like, a computer guy. But we were kind of past it by the time I was old enough to know things. And so I was like, I knew what it was. I was just like, this is so bizarre.
Yeah, I used floppy disk for a while. Like, I remember my parents were like, okay, this is your floppy disk. So if you have to do something at school and take it, come back and work on the computer, here's your floppy disk. And it's insane. We still have them at my parents' house. Like, probably about 20 of them.
Back to Jennifer. Jennifer and Daniel. Jennifer and Daniel are back together. And...
Daniel is their couple name.
Yes. And so they are back in contact, exchanging daily flirty texts, and they devised an even more sinister plan. So they'd hire a hit on Vic and Han, collect the estate, which Jennifer's portion totaling about $500,000.
How do you know this? I don't know my parents' estate.
Right? I don't know. Maybe she was digging in stuff.
Well, she was home a lot.
Yeah, that's true. And they were going to live together after it, unencumbered by meddling parents. So Daniel gave Jennifer a spare iPhone and SIM card and connected her to Lenford Crawford, whose nickname was Homeboy.
Let's not lie, Lenford Crawford, great name.
Yeah, Homeboy.
He sounds not as much. He sounds like a Victorian gangster.
He does.
This is Lenford Crawford. He's the leader of, I don't know, Ripper Street. That was not an actual game. And then everyone beats him up just because you call him Homeboy.
So he said it was gonna cost $20,000 for the hit, but because he's a friend of Daniel's, it could be done for $10,000. Jennifer was careful to use her iPhone for crime-related conversations and her Samsung phone for everything else. So on November 2nd, so before I talk about that, after the police, like once they started talking to her, they're like, "Hey, can we see your phones?" And she was like, "Yeah, sure, you're not going to find anything on there," but she gave him her phone. So all these texts are real texts that the police found.
My thing is, her murder phone is an iPhone, but her real phone is a Samsung.
A Samsung flip phone.
Yes. Oh, those things never break. You could chuck them at someone and they still wouldn't break.
I mean, this was in 2010, too.
I think...
I'm trying to think. The iPhones were, like, newer during that time. Like, it was, like, 3 or 2?
I think it would be even better if she had a Nokia. If her parents were like, "We love you this much, we got you a Nokia. It's never going to die."
It's so good. You can play Snake on it all day.
That's really what she was doing. She wasn't texting. She was just playing Snake.
She's just playing Snake. That's all she has. That's her life now. They delete Snake off the phone, too, so she can't have that.
That is cruel and unusual punishment.
So, on November 2nd, Daniel texted Jennifer saying that he felt as strongly about Christine as she did about him. So, Jennifer responds saying, "So, you feel for her what I feel for you, then call it off with Homeboy." Daniel responded, "I thought you wanted this for you." Jennifer, "I do, but I have nowhere to go." Daniel, "Call it off with Homeboy. You said you wanted this with or without me." Jennifer, "I want it for me." The next day, Daniel texted, "I did everything and lined it all up for you." So it seemed that Daniel wanted out, but within hours they reverted back to their old ways, texting and flirting. Later that day, Crawford texted Jennifer, "I need the time of completion. Think about it." Jennifer wrote back, "Today is a no-go. Dinner plans out, so won't be home in time." Over the following week, there was a flurry of text and phone conversations between Jennifer, Daniel, and Crawford. Then, on morning of November 8th, Crawford texted Jennifer, "After work, okay, will be game time." Now, here's the thing we heard at the beginning, but here's it in more detail, so makes a little bit more sense now. So Jennifer was in her bedroom while Han read the Vietnamese news down the hall before heading to bed around 8:30 p.m. Vic was out line dancing with a friend and cousin. Felix was her brother, wasn't home.
I love Vic going out line dancing. Yeah, Vic.
I know. Get it, Vic.
You do something for you.
You do you. At 9:30 p.m., Vic came home from her line dancing class. Oh, it was a class, too.
Yeah, girl.
She changed into her PJs and soaked her feet in front of the TV on the main floor. At 9:35, a man named David Milvaginum, I'm going with it, a friend of Crawford's, called Jennifer, and they spoke for nearly 2 minutes. Jennifer went downstairs to say goodnight to Vic, and as Jennifer later admitted, she unlocked the door. At 10:02 p.m., the light in the upstairs study switched on, which was a signal to the intruders, and a minute later it switched off. At 10:05, Milvaginum called again, and he and Jennifer spoke for 3.5 minutes. Moments later, Crawford, Milvaginum, and a third man named Eric Carty watched through the front door, all three carrying guns. One pointed his gun at Vic while another ran upstairs, shoved a gun at Han's face, and directed him out of bed, down the stairs, and into the living room. Now, Vic asked Han in Cantonese how could they enter the house, and he responded with, "I don't know, I was sleeping." And then the intruder said, "Shut up, you talk too much. Where's the fucking money?" Han had just $60 in his wallet and said as much. "Liar," one man repeated, and pistol whipped him on the back of the head. Vic began weeping, pleading with the men not to hurt their daughter. One of the intruders replied, "Rest assured, she is nice and will not be hurt." Now, Carty led Jennifer upstairs and tied her arms to the banister while Milvaginum and Crawford took Vic and Han to the basement and covered their heads with blankets. They shot Han twice, once in the shoulder and then in the face. He crumpled to the floor. They shot Vic 3 times in the head, killing her instantly, and then they fled through the door.
That's interesting.
Now we're kind of caught up.
That they shot him in the shoulder and in, like, the face, like, when he was, like, really the more aggressor of the situation, and she's been trying to kill him, and I think she actually liked her mom, because her mom was always nice to her.
I think so, too.
And so, it's just, I mean, you never want matricide, but I just feel bad for Vic, because she tried to be a good mom at every step of the way.
Mm-hmm. And she even while before she died, she was just like, just don't hurt her, like.
And she was like telling her where Jennifer where her phone was. She was like, just like, we want you to just be happy and successful and all of that. And she's the one who ends up dead in this situation. It's really sad.
So by November 12th, Han had woken up from his 3-day induced coma. He had a broken bone near his eye, bullet fragments lodged in his face that the doctors couldn't remove, and a shattered neck bone. The bullet had grazed a carotid artery. Remarkably, he remembered everything, including 2 troubling details. He recalled seeing his daughter chatting softly, like a friend, he said, with one of the intruders, and her arms were not tied behind her back while she was being led around the house. Once the police got this statement from Han, they brought Jennifer in for questioning again, but they basically told her, like, we know you were part of it. Over nearly 4 hours, Jennifer spun into an absurd explanation. She said that the attack had been an elaborate plan to commit suicide, but it had gone horribly wrong. She had given up on life but didn't know how to manage to kill herself, so she hired Homeboy, who she said she didn't know his real name, to do it. In September, however, her relationship with her father had suddenly improved, and she decided to call off the hit. But somehow wires got crossed, and basically she says that they wanted money to cancel it, essentially, but she couldn't give it to them, so they ended up killing her parents instead of her.
Yeah, no.
It does make sense. Police arrested Jennifer on the spot, and then in the spring of 2011, relying on analysis of cell phone calls and texts, they nabbed Daniel Milvaginum, Cardi, and Crawford and charged all 5 with first-degree murder, attempted murder, and conspiracy to commit murder. Her trial lasted 10 months. Before the juries delivered their verdict, Jennifer appeared almost upbeat, playfully picking lint off her lawyer's robes. When the guilty verdict was delivered, she showed no emotion, but once the press had left the courtroom, she wept, shaking uncontrollably. For the charge of first-degree murder, Jennifer received an automatic life sentence with no chance of parole for 25 years. For the attempted murder of her father, she received another sentence of life to be served concurrently for her mother. Han and Felix, which was her brother, both wrote victim impact statements. Han said, "When I lost my wife, I lost my daughter at the same time. I don't feel like I have a family anymore. Some say I should feel lucky to be alive, but I feel like I am dead too." He is unable to work due to his injuries. He also suffers from anxiety attacks, insomnia, and when he can't sleep, nightmares. He's in constant pain and has given up gardening, working on his car, and listening to music since none of those activities bring him joy anymore. He can't bear to be in his house, so he lives with his relatives that are nearby. Felix moved to the East Coast to find work with a private technology company and escape the stigma of being a member of the Pan family. He suffers from depression and has become closed off. Han is desperate to sell the family home, but no one will buy it. At the end of his statement, Han addressed Jennifer, "I hope my daughter Jennifer thinks about what has happened to her family and can become a good, honest person someday."
It's just crazy. It's so sad, but it's also so preventable. Like, on, 12 different levels, it could have been preventable, and you're just like...
Yeah.
And Jennifer, I think at that point, she's just a compulsive liar, so what else does she know? I just want to know what the cops thought when they found the second phone, you know? Like, they're like, oh, wait.
Right?
What's this?
I think they were kind of onto her, right from the get-go. Because the fact that she was alive and unharmed.
And they said the guys weren't wearing masks and all this stuff, and they're like, Why would they leave you alive? It's kind of like that, the case where the mom killed her kids in the car, and she said someone tried to carjack them, and she, was shot in the shoulder or something, and it's like, yeah, you can easily shoot yourself in the shoulder.
Yeah.
And the cops were like, that's weird, especially because she was on TV, and then as soon as the daughter woke up and every time her mom came in the room, she, the heart monitor kept jumping, and they're like, weird.
This is a little fishy.
Yeah. But do you want to plug your show?
Yeah, so my show's Histories, Mysteries, and Conspiracies, which talks about all those things. So it's pretty straightforward, and it's a similar format to yours, so I just have a new person every week, or just a person coming back, and we talk about different stories. And you can find me on Instagram, which is at HMCT Podcast, on Facebook at HMCT Podcast, on Twitter at Podcast HMCT, and then there's also a website with show notes, bonus stuff, cool things, which is Conspiracies.com.
Yay. And then next week you'll be back and I'll be telling you a story.
Yes.
Bye. Hey guys, July 13th is coming up soon, and if you want to meet me and a bunch of my podcasting friends, about 80 of them, come down to the True Crime Podcast Festival at the Marriott downtown, right on the Magnificent Mile, you know, right by the Bean in that beautiful park. So I'm excited to see some of my favorites: All Crime No Cattle, Ignorance Was Bliss, Nature vs. Narcissism, Paranormal Chicks, the Getting Off podcast, Dark Poutine. All of your indie favorites are going to be there, as well as a lot of the big names. This is a full day event, and the sooner you sign up, the cheaper it's going to be. So make sure you sign up soon. And there's going to be meet and greets. I'll be there. I have ordered some things, so if you're there, you might get some exclusive goodies. And, you know, there's some amazing events going on, some panels like, Getting Off and LA Not So Confidential are doing a live episode as part of this. There's also amazing panel with Court Junkie, Misconduct, and Pretend Radio. So really, why haven't you bought your tickets yet? I already have, and I hope to see you there.
Let's skip the foreplay. Murder. You want to talk about it. Hear about all kinds of nasty things. Sex. Torture, madness, dismemberment. And why, more than anything, you want to know why. Well, dear listener, you ain't never had a friend like me.
Tune in to Murder Was the Case, featuring author and investigative criminologist Lee Meller. Sometimes solo, often with guests, always horrifically entertaining. Listen to Murder Was the Case on iTunes, Google Play, or go to murderwasthecase.podbean.com.
It's gonna be sick.
Of Domesticity. We're available on all podcatchers. Remember to rate, review, subscribe to help spread the word, or just force other people to listen to it. Our Facebook and Twitter are at Domestic Podcasts, and our Instagram is at the Cult of Domesticity. We also have podcast merch at Threadless. As well, if you want to support us financially or show some appreciation, we have a PayPal tip jar and a Patreon, which has some pretty great perks. Any topic suggestions, feel free to email us at domesticpodcast@gmail.com. Remember to stay domestic and cult-free.